Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Buff Nagel the podcast, where we explore entertaining and enlightening discussions of the adventure of life and all things good. From science and technology to history and philosophy to leadership and success. We hope to give you a better understanding of the world and skills for everyone to pursue their own adventure. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Buff Nagel the podcast, where we talk about all things good in the pursuit of the adventure of life. I'm Zach, and we got a fantastic show today. I can't wait to get started, but I can't do this alone. So, as always, I'm joined by Rafe. Rafe, how you doing today?
Zach, I am. Hey, I'm great. I'm utterly fantastic. I am. It is a wonderful day to be doing a podcast with you, as always. Hey, thanks to our listeners for being here. Without you guys, we are nothing. If you need to reach us, you can reach us at buffnagel at buffnagel.com. We're on Twitter, Instagram, all sorts of other places. Zach, I was going through this, driving through Kentucky today, and there was this billboard, and I swear it was like a transcript of our show up there. I mean, we are everywhere, Zach. All right. We talk about all sorts of things. If you're new to the podcast, hey, stick around, give us a couple episodes, maybe 4, maybe 40, and you'll find something that resonates with you. And hey, leave us a review and subscribe. Remember, when you hit the subscribe button or give us a 5-star review, I get pudding. All right. Even if you write us a 5-star, even if you don't like the show, give us a 5-star review, right? And at least I get pudding, and then you feel you've done something good. So, Zach, I'm great. We're going to get pudding. What else is there?
Yeah, I think, that's the show today. Rafe gets pudding, and we're done. So, we'll see you guys next week. No, we're not actually going to do that. You mentioned, doing something good for somebody. So, that's kind of what we're talking about today. We're talking about a new concept that I developed about 4 days ago called the 6 degrees of impact, which use the 6 degrees of separation, which is a sociology concept, and talks about the impact that we have on others and how it ripples through and impacts people that we may not even know that we impacted.
Yeah. Let me see if I got this right, because this is a new thing, and your listeners are hearing like 6 degrees of impact, not like I've heard this before, and we're trying to talk through and figure out exactly what it means and how to make it work. So we're talking about this is like the 6 degrees of, it's not like 6 degrees of freedom. It's 6 degrees of separation of like Kevin Bacon or something like that.
Yeah. So there's the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, which is a way to track actors and actresses on how far away they are from appearing in or working with Kevin Bacon in a movie. So if you worked on Footloose with Kevin Bacon, you're 1 degree of separation away from Kevin Bacon. If you worked on a movie with someone who worked on a movie with someone who worked on a movie who worked on Footloose, then you're like 4 degrees of separation away from Kevin Bacon.
But people do that with all sorts of celebrities, right? They'll say like, well, how far am I from Kevin Bacon? Because I'm just a podcast host, right? And I'll say, well, I know Zach, and Zach knows somebody who knows his sister who knows him, right? Or they'll do it with like brushes with greatness. Well, I shook so-and-so's hand, and so-and-so's shook the president's hand. Therefore, I'm 2 degrees away from the president, right? Isn't that how they do that as well?
Yeah, so you could do, we can do an example right here on the show. Adam Ashley Cooper. Adam Ashley Cooper is an Australian rugby player.
Adam Ashley, his middle name's Ashley.
His double last name is Ashley Cooper.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Ashley used to be a boy name.
Yes, I think
in fact, in Gone with the Wind, the main guy is Ashley Wilkes. Do you remember that, Zach?
I think I did. In the book I didn't read.
Yeah. Your mom loves that book. It's very well written. It's very pretty. Okay, so Adam Ashley Wilkes is
Adam Ashley Cooper.
Adam Ashley Cooper works on a plantation in Georgia. Is that right?
Yep, there we go. Nailed it.
Okay. He's
this guy's an Australian rugby player. Yeah. He just finished playing a season in Los Angeles. One of the players on that team, Christian Rodriguez, plays with an old college rugby teammate of mine, Daniel Hodge. And then Daniel Hodge.
We got Ashley Wilkes, who's on the plantation rugby team. He knows this guy Christian Rodriguez from Los Angeles.
Yep.
He knows Daniel Hodge.
Yep.
I know Daniel Hodge.
You know Daniel. You do.
Yeah, but Daniel Hodge knows you and played rugby. So you're 4 degrees of rugby separation from the guy who played rugby in Gone with the Wind.
Yes.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's 4 degrees of separation. Well, that's kind of cool. So, but you want to talk about something not 4 degrees of connection with like just people, but you want to talk about impact.
Yeah, I want to talk about how the people in our lives impact each other. And it's taking the idea of the 6 degrees of separation and then the fact that the world is very connected. We just connected me, a guy who lives in Minnesota, to a rugby player from Australia. A very famous, well-known, and talented rugby player from Australia, not just some random dude on the side of the street. So, that's kind of weird and amazing to think about, is that we are maybe closer to people than we realize, and technology has played also a role in that increasing of interactions with people.
So we have interact. So the idea, I think, is that we every time we interact with somebody, we have impact on them, right? So, and that's what you're talking about,
Yeah,
but that cascades and I guess ripples. It's like a
yeah,
wave, right? So any of the physics guys out there, it's a wave that propagates, but it kind of tends to get attenuated as it moves down the line, right? Is that so? It loses
yeah.
its
I mean,
power, so to speak.
yeah. If you would drop a rock into a pond, it creates ripples, and that
And a
first
splash, it
ripple,
makes a splash.
it makes a splash and ripples. Splashes is
Yes.
fun if you got kids around, and then you
Yeah.
splash the kid.
Okay. Yeah, I got you.
Um,
Okay. So, but then the ripples go out.
the ripples go out, and the ripples closest to where the rock hit the water are the strongest. They're the most powerful. And then the ones that go later and further on, they're not as powerful, they're not as strong because they're a little bit further away from the initial impact. And the
All right.
initial impact is what we're talking about today. Is if I know somebody who impacts my life, they positively affect me, they negatively affect me, they neutrally affect me. They do something to my life that then affects me, and then that effect is carried on into relationships I have, and it's carried on to the relationships that people that I know have with other people that I may not know.
So you are a node in a propagating wave, so to speak. All right, and people impact you, and you impact other people. So these all things are. It's like a whole bunch of ripples going all over the pond at the same time. But what you want to do is so what you're saying is these things ripple out and they propagate. So so let me see if I can summarize this up in a really short little summary. Is that what you do to others really matters, not just to you and to them, but it matters way down the line.
It matters down the line, and it matters to the whole world as a whole, because like we just laid out earlier, we're really closely connected to people.
Yeah.
And
So
it's becoming even easier to connect to people.
yeah, and the internet certainly does that. But some of these, okay, so you and Hodge, all right, our rugby guys, and he's in New York now, right?
He's in LA.
In LA, wasn't he in New York?
No.
Didn't you have a buddy in New York?
Yes.
Okay, different guy.
Yes.
Okay, I can't keep them all straight. Zach has so many friends, I can't keep them all straight. It was amazing. Okay, Zach goes to college, and we were like, Zach, how you doing? He was like, oh, I'm great. It's like, what you doing? Well, I'm just studying. I'm just reading this. I'm doing that. And it was like, okay. And Zach would never mention his friends. Never, ever, ever mention his friends. And like his mom and I were like, I wonder, do you think Zach has any friends? I wonder if Zach has any friends in college. I don't know. Do you ever mention his friends? He never mentions his friends. It was like, so we're going to graduation. We're like, I guess we'll go to graduation and we'll sit with Zach and it'll be the three of us. And it'll be really boring because Zach doesn't have any friends. And we get to campus and we're walking around campus and we walk out of the door and people are like, hey, Zach. And the guy over here, hey, Zach. It's like, we're like, he had more hits, more impact with these, like he knew everybody on campus. It was stunning. All right. So Zach's got all sorts of friends. All right. So, all right. So you know Hodge, right? But you impact him positively. And what you're saying is that impact, if it's good and if it's positive, it should do two things. It should probably go through him to somebody else, but he should take the effort to magnify that as it goes so that it doesn't just attenuate down to nothing by the time it hits the Gone with the Wind rugby player.
There we go.
Right.
Well, and additionally, like people have impact back as well. If you take two rocks and you drop them in at the same time, there are ripples that hit each other, and sometimes those ripples are even stronger because they're the impact of two people together. That's a different point.
Okay, but okay, we're going to play the whole model thing. All right, there are places where those waves, if they're out of phase, when they add together, they cancel out.
Yeah.
Or if it's a big negative if it's a negative wave, I'm not really sure how you can do that in water, but I guess they kind of go up and down in water. But if you have a really big negative, it's going to swamp out your positive, and that's going to suck. So don't make negative waves.
Yeah, make more positive waves, because positive waves together with other positive waves are going to create bigger positive waves, which creates bigger
Impact.
And we like good impact on people.
We like positive impact, right? So there's a difference though then between impact and just contact, right? So if you have all sorts of friends and all sorts of people out there, and you just know them and you just pass by, I guess neutral impact is probably just contact, right? But you want to seek the good, be the good, spread the good, and this is part of the whole spread the good thing, is make sure that when you are contacting, you are producing positive impact.
Yeah, and when you're interacting with people, you can do something that is going to, maybe have them rethink about how they see the world or they interact with somebody. Maybe if they're struggling with life in general, and like they're in between jobs, or they're frustrated with something, and you're able to come in and have a story that maybe relates to their position and say, hey, when I was there, I did this, and they see that, they recognize that, okay, I'm in that same place. Okay, Zach did this, he was able to get through by doing this and this, and then okay, cool, I can do that too. And it maybe lights a little bit of a fire in them. It lights them up, and it allows you to do a little bit more, and then your impact, sharing that story, positively impacting them, and then maybe down the line they have a friend that you don't know going through the same thing, and they tell their story of where they were struggling and how they got through, and then the person goes, okay, cool, they can do it, I can do it too. And this nice little wave is this going to be created, and eventually maybe it spreads around to somebody on the other side of the continent from you, maybe on the other side of the planet from you,
or maybe just across the room.
Yeah.
Right. So but now with this, the internet has okay, so here's this week's understatement, brought to you by the internet. The internet has changed everything. The simple fact that you guys who are regular listeners of the podcast, that you heard Bob Luzinski, America's favorite rocket scientist, his stories about the Challenger situation when the rocket mishap, you heard that, right? And he was able to share that with you through this technology. There is the ability with a tool, like any tool, there's the ability to use it for good, and there's the ability to use it for not good. But it's really been a game changer as to the amount of impact you can produce with very little effort. I mean, this podcast takes effort, but there are things you can do on the internet that require hardly any effort, but they can have massive amounts of impact, positively or negatively.
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. You mentioned Bob. So, and us bringing Bob in is us bringing somebody that a lot of maybe our regular listeners who know us in some capacity do not know. So we're bringing somebody who's outside of their inner circle. Going back to the 6 degrees of separation here, we consider ourselves maybe we're tier 1 interactions, and we're bringing in a tier 2 interaction now because we're removed from that, and we're bringing them down to a tier 1, so that impact now is then closer to be able to affect that person. And that means that impact, instead of being 2 steps away, is only 1 step away, which means, talk about the multiplication factor that you mentioned earlier with the ripples in the water, it's a closer initial ripple, which means that effect can be greater to the people who hear it and take it with them.
Yeah, and that's, and there's, I mean, we made this joke a long time ago, and we make this joke, well, as frequently as we can because it's funny.
Which one?
With this one, this says that with great podcasts comes great responsibility, and that is it's funny on a number of levels. But the best thing, the most important thing about that is that's really true, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't apply just to this podcast. All right, everything you are doing out there, from the way you, and certainly because this internet thing is a magnifier. All right, so if you're making pock shots at your political opponents on the internet, if you are making fun of one of your classmates for I don't know, doing whatever classmates get made fun of,
a haircut.
A new haircut. Okay, there's the thing, right? Or if you're pumping somebody up, If you do that publicly, that's different than if you just do it privately. These things have massive impact. You have so much more impact on this tool than we've ever had before. I think about it, Zach. So I grew up in this little town of essentially 5,000 people. All right, there were 5,000 people. There were 2 elementary schools that fed the one middle school, and that middle school and a number of outlying, I guess, more rural community middle schools fed the one high school. It was a very big high school, but it was a small town that was fed from a bunch of rural areas. Our impact there, the most impact you could have, Zach, the most impact I ever had as a kid was when I read the Pledge of Allegiance in 5th grade. Over on the school PA thing, we would do the Pledge of Allegiance every morning, and if you got picked every now and then to do that, Zach, that's probably the start of my broadcasting career. Now that I think about it.
Well, we should have put you in the Hartford
Dang.
Middle School 5th grade Hall of Fame there.
Rossman
We'll get you a
Elementary
golden
School.
plaque.
Rossman Elementary. Talk about terrifying.
Well, I mean,
but that was the limit of the impact you could have. Okay, if you are a person now who happens to film somebody losing it at the 5 and dime, you don't even have that anymore. At Target, you're at your local Target. Somebody's losing it. Somebody's having a bad day. Somebody flips out, and you get that on film and you post it to the right place. It can have an impact that goes around the world. What do they say about lies? Lies go around the world before truth can get his pants on, right? So that kind of, be careful, man. I guess is the real thing. The impact you can have is astounding with these tools.
Yeah, things move so quickly. But you mentioned the internet, and there are some good things from the internet. The internet, you can post an uplifting story, and then maybe somebody sees that story and they share it to their friends, and their friends see and like, oh, this is great. And eventually you can get like a whole movement going almost from just you being authentic and real on the internet and saying, hey, this is something I believe in. This is my good. This is how I'm seeking it. And this is where I'm going with it. And that positive interaction is going to, we've said it before, it ripples out and it's going to impact those people.
It seems to me like I'll say in the old days, because I'm the old guy here. Okay. In the old days, we had the people we interacted with and then everybody else. That was it. You were, unless you happen to be like a newscaster or an actor or a radio personality. And those were very rare individuals. I mean, you could impact the people you touched and that was it. I mean, physical contact was pretty much the only way to have interaction. It's different now. All right. We have this podcast. So we reach people all around the planet. All right. In ways that we reach people we've never met. Right? We impact people we've never met. And that is really that's a scary responsibility. There are some people have jobs where that happens. I work for a pharmaceutical company, right? And the data analysis I do on the data impacts like potentially millions of patients down the line. That's a huge responsibility to get that stuff right, to make sure that you're not doing something untoward. So, but there's different levels now than there were before. So there's like first tier people. These are like you, Zach,
that you see and talk to and engage with on a daily, frequently basis.
Yeah, and then there are those that you may talk to, but sometimes it's only a talk over like I contact some of my work colleagues, and sometimes we'll have conversations over the course of a week where we never actually speak. We just use this little instant messagey thing on our computers. Yep. Right. And then there's like the contacts I have through the podcast or through other social media stuff. Somebody knows me from that, or they read an article I wrote or something like that. Right. And then there's everybody else. Right. So what's happened is this very, very discrete line between the people you know and the people you don't know has been kind of blurred. It's been kind of smoothed out, and there are different tiers. I still think the people you have the most contact with are the ones you have the most impact with. Right. Yeah. So like the people you actually physically touch, people whose hand you hold, people whose shoulder you put an arm on, the person whose face you hit with your fist. Right. Those
that's a little negative impact.
Well, there. That's a negative, but that's what I'm saying is those people that you actually physically contact are the ones you have the most impact with. But you have to be careful now because you're reaching a lot more people. And ask yourself the question, do I really want to have the impact that I may have with doing what I'm doing?
Yeah, I think that's a perfect way to talk about it. I mean, the two things that I think of when you talk about that are the idea of parasocial relationships, and then additionally, like the fact that you might have a friend from on Facebook that you haven't seen in 30 years because they're from high school, but yet you just like their picture and you see the impact you're going to have on that person is a lot smaller. But going back to what I mentioned earlier with parasocial
Yeah. So
relationships, or
what's a
these
parasocial? What is that? Is
so
that
these
second tier thing?
relationships with they're one-sided relationships, for the lack of a better term. They're let's say you listen to a podcast and you necessarily don't personally know the host, but if the host would do a buffnagel at the Pantheon's Theater in downtown Minneapolis, and you would go to that, you would kind of feel like you have an interaction with them. You kind of know them, despite the fact that they might not know you.
So like if you're out there listening right now, you're hearing us, you kind of think, well, I know those guys. I know Zach. He talks about donuts. All right.
I like
I know,
donuts.
right? I know Rafe. He just moved to Indianapolis, right? So you would feel like we have an interaction, but we really don't. Not quite the same. Not like we do with Bob. You may think you know Bob now, but you really don't know Bob. You never met Bob. So that's a parasocial. That's kind of a one-way interaction, and it creates a. So you're saying that's not quite the same kind of
No, I
interaction?
mean it could be like I can, we can have this podcast and we can impact our listeners, and I hope we are doing that. If we aren't doing that, we need to work better at doing that more. But we have that impact on our listeners, and that's a good impact, hopefully. But necessarily, they don't have a impact back to us other than reviews that allow you to have pudding. So maybe there is a little more relationship
It's
there
a
than we
little
thought.
less parasocial and a little bit more social because it's kind of like parasocial in one direction, pudding in the other direction, right?
Yeah.
So when you leave us a 5-star review, I get pudding, and that's the feedback you give. And I have to say, Zach, I appreciate that a lot. But that's like the smiley stars on Insta, Twit thing, whatever those things are, right?
Social media.
Social
Likes.
media, whenever you hit the likes or the smiley stars or the thumbs up or whatever they are, that's the feedback. But it's very minimal. The impact of those is essentially none. But that's a parasocial relationship, and those are things that have come up since the dawn of mass media. Is people have fans that they've never met. They don't really know. They could be creepos. You don't know anything about them.
Who are maybe in love with them, or
That's
think
the
they're
thing.
dating them.
Stalkers and stuff like that. That's the thing people really, really worry about.
They think they have that relationship, which they may not know. And that's perfectly okay. Because if that person is able to positively impact them in some way, the impact may not be reciprocated, but there is still something going on there. But it's not, the relationship or the impact that's the most important.
So the impact is there. We have degrees of impact, and the summary is your greatest impact is with the people that you are closest to.
Yeah.
Right. So those are the ones you have absolutely got to get right. Right. Those are we can, Zach, if you and I had this podcast and we touched, if we were a top 1/10 of 1% or 1/100th of 1% podcast globally, we had hundreds of thousands of listeners instead of just the millions of listeners that we do have. If we had that, right, then, but we had a bad relationship on the home front. Like you didn't get along with, you and your brother were fighting, and I was fighting with your mom, and things. If those would be bad, that would be bad. And the impact the impact is thin. It's not rich. It's broth. It's broth when it comes through the airways, one-sided. It's the whole stew when you meet people fully.
Yeah, and those are the people that you get to have genuine interactions with. Those are the people you get to have genuine impact on. Those are the people that you can, help through hard times. You talked about, putting a shoulder on somebody or holding their hand, making them feel loved, cared for, and part of something bigger than themselves. And that interaction and that creation allows us to seek the good, which is, what we talk about since day one of this whole thing that we decided to put ourselves in the front of microphones for.
Yeah. So that's the real friend. All right. I guess that's the thing is the impact. You ought to be searching for impact. You ought to be doing positive impact. If you're out there trying to say, who can I impact and how can I impact them negatively, then we'd like you to unsubscribe, please. I can't believe you're out there if you're that person, but you know what? That's not what we want to do. So start with the people that are close, right? And those are the people you physically interact with. And that's the real human piece, all right? We are not just, with all due respect to Mr. Zuckerberg, we are not just avatars on the meta. I guess it's called the meta now. Did you hear that, Zach?
Mm-mm.
Facebook is no longer Facebook. It's now going to be called Meta. And the goal is to build this meta universe where you live as an avatar in there.
That sounds like the Matrix.
Oh, it's scary as hell.
Do I get superpowers like in the Matrix?
Probably. You get to dress up. You can dress like that alien from Men in Black. You can be whatever you want. You can be whatever you want, and you can redefine your whole body, But see, that's the thing is.
But if I can be whatever I want to be good, and I want to impact good to the people around. Money, power, fame, fortune, all of that can go to hell. Because I do the things I do to positively impact the people who make my life better. That's the goal,
right?
That's the dream. And when I am there, I have unlocked nirvana. I have found that higher level where I can be my best self.
Yeah, and the people you will have the most impact into are the real people in your life. All right. So I'm a little scared of the meta, and I have a feeling I will never go to the metaverse, whatever that is called, with Mr. Zuckerberg and his buddies. To me, it looks like a fun little parlor trick, but I you know what, your friends are not the people who give you smiley stars. Your friends are the people that show up at your door with a 6-pack and say, "Hey, sorry your team lost. Let's talk it through," or whatever it is, or you'll
lost. They call you up on a Friday night and say, "Hey, let's go get some ice cream. I know you've had a tough week."
Yeah. Those are your friends and they don't just send you ice cream through the Uber Eats. They go with you to get ice cream.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a physical. We live in a physical world, right? And we need to make sure we maintain our physical bodies. Now, you talked about becoming your best self, and you want to live, Zach, in your best world.
Yeah.
Is that based on something?
I think it would be based on the Great Good Place, which small quick caveat, as I also believe one of the influences for The Good Place, the TV show with Ted Danson, but we can get into that a little bit later. But The Great Good Place is a short story from an English writer, Henry James, that kind of talks about your life at its best, ignoring the bills, ignoring the life, other things you have to do. You at your best, achieving, enlightenment, for the lack of a better term.
Yeah. So it's a guy, and he's kind of like me. He's good
looking.
He is good looking, and he has a podcast in 1900. Yeah, he is
first podcast.
Yeah, he is a 1900s. He's a writer, but he's overwhelmed with everything, and he has kind of everything's overwhelming him. All right, he's got bills to pay, and what's the Harry Chapin song? There was work to do and bills to pay. He could learn to walk while I was away. Right? I mean, this guy is swamped with life, whatever that was. All right, it's Cats in the Cradle. All right.
Yep.
So he's swamped with this, and he's got. And those of you who are adult men, all right, who have been in this world, it. Adult women who are you feel it, but you feel it differently because you're female, right? And those of you who are students, you feel it, but you feel it differently. We all have these pressures of life that are on top of us, but underneath that, we have these little glimpses,
little moments of truth. I'll call it.
Yeah, little truth, right? Where the veil is lifted a little bit, or out of the corner of your eye, you see what is referred to as the Great Good Place. And in the story, the main character goes with this friend to this. He's transported. It's not really sure exactly how he does it. He's transported to the Great Good Place. It's a gentleman's club, and not the kind of creepy one you see along the interstate, right? But this is a gentleman's club where they talk and they interact, and they have good food, and they have good drink, and they smoke cigars, and they live this really good life where you're like, wow, that was 6 hours that passed. I had no idea. And they talk about all the good things and all they have intellectual discussions. And so he goes there and he lives in this great good place that is revealed to him when the veil is lifted just a little bit. And I think we have those things, Zach. Sometimes we have them.
I think art does a very good job of showing some of these things. I'm going to talk about it again because I like to. But Raphael's School of Athens is this representation of the great good place that is, the ancients. It shows Socrates and Plato and Alexander the Great and this mathematicians doing mathematician things and discovery, and this champion of the human spirit and endeavor is portrayed in that painting.
Right. And so I think of it like it's whenever you had that situation where you're like, wow, that was we just went for this walk and it was like this great walk and we got done and we shook hands and we went separate ways. Like, well, that was great. I want to do that again. I want to repeat that. I want to have that happen. And you try to do it and sometimes you miss, right? But it might be that the interaction you have with the store clerk when the store clerk is really nice and you have this wonderful, you have this brush with the great good place. It can be there. It can be at church. It could be while driving down the highway and someone waves and lets you in, lets you merge into traffic without slowing down.
All the traffic lights are green on your way in.
Right. It's all of those things. All right. And for Henry James writing in 1900, that was the good place, the great good place to him. All right. And so I think there's this, I'm trying to figure out if that is what we call, is that heaven? Is that heaven? Is that what we seek to achieve? And I think that, people have said, I don't want to go to heaven if I'm just going to sit around playing a harp all day. And I'm like, harps are pretty cool.
Well, okay, first of all, if we're going to go to heaven, what are we wearing in heaven? That's the first question that matters. I'm wearing a hockey jersey.
Okay, see, there's the thing. Okay, but maybe that's it. Okay, so I've had situations where I've watched sporting events, and they've been like the most miraculous outcome I've ever seen. It's just and that's one reason I watch sports is because that is revealed on occasion when you never expect it. Okay,
a moment of pure joy and entertainment and happiness.
Yeah, and sometimes you've had that on that Thanksgiving dinner. You're sitting. I've had that. I sit there and I'm looking around. And it's the people I want to be with. It's the food I want to eat. I'm sitting in the chair I like. My shoes aren't tight. My belt's not tight yet. All right. And it's like everything is like, what do they say? The stars are aligned and
it's you are where you need to be at the right moment in time.
God's in his heaven and all's right with the world. All right. And that's where I see this thing going. And so like, I'm wondering if that's James talking about what heaven is. If it's because if you're human, and I think all of us listening are, right? If you're we have to cancel all those robot accounts to listen to the podcast. Zach. If you're human, you can't experience heaven. You can't experience the good if you're not experiencing it as human. So there are things that drive us in a human sense. We seek God. We seek love, right? And that's what God is. God is love. We seek that, all right? But we also seek that in each other as well. So heaven can't be a place where we're just sitting up there strumming a harp all by ourselves watching.
We seek community. I think we've talked about this on this podcast. We love community and interaction and surrounding ourselves with people of like-minded stories and entertainment and joy. It's why people gather on Saturday and Sunday afternoons to watch a sporting event, because they want to be around people who cheer for the same people, or they want to be around people to celebrate something big. It's why we get so excited at weddings, and it's why we cry and grieve so much at funerals, because we love so much.
Right. So I have to say, like, one of those times where the veil was lifted was at your sister's wedding 2-3 summers ago, whenever that was. That was one of the most perfect nights of my life. It was, and it just, because everything was like, your mother planned a wedding that was phenomenal. All right. The food was great. It was all the people that we wanted there were there. I think pretty much almost everybody was there. It was just it was, and people were dressed up, people were happy,
It
right?
was
It was just
celebratory. It
it
was
was just it was
fun.
like, this is what it should be. This is what it should be. And that's that little inkling. All right. And those are the little pieces that you grab and you seek, and you hope to, like, you hope that your good that you're seeking, being, and spreading, that your good has the impact to generate that, right? And that's why, Zach, when we're always talking in the week, what are we going to talk about this week? What are we going to talk about? It causes me tremendous stress. And then the podcast comes out and we get a nice note from somebody that said, you made my day. I loved hearing about this. Like, you know what? That's worth it. And all that stuff that went into that wedding, it was all worth it. All of that was worth it. And I'm sure you see the same thing.
Yeah, and when you get the opportunity, and this goes back to that impact we were talking about earlier. When you get the opportunity to impact somebody, when you get the opportunity to celebrate, show, and express yourself fully, and to do that for the people around you who are in community with you and who believe in you and who love you, that impact and that little bit of good that you get to do and you get to pass on to others is so powerful, and it's so beautiful to witness, and it's so beautiful to be a part of, because it makes you want to have more of it. And so that kind of is what we're talking about when I talk about these real, genuine human interactions that we get to have with people. When we get to spread positivity and impact people in good, healthy, organic ways, we chase that because
It's
we
lifting the veil.
yeah, we get to lift the veil and be part of something bigger than ourselves. And that maybe is the adventure of life in a nutshell. Maybe that is.
Yeah, I have been so like the guests I love doing this with you every week, Zach. I love it. But I have to say, it's like it's a different high point when we have guests on, and it's like a new color, right? It's a new hymn.
Well,
It's a new color. It's a new kind of firework. Like, when I was a kid, the fireworks, so they went boom, boom. That's all they did. And now they go up and they spin and they'll write like Buffnagel in the sky. I mean, they'll do all these kinds of weird things. Like, it's like new every time. So when we get a new guest on and we get to hear the story, the it is these are little pieces. These are, each of us is Imago Dei. We are reflections of the voice of God. We are in that image, and I get to see. You guys have to hear it, okay? We get to see it on the screen. Maybe we should start making this live, right, in the video. But I get to see this. I get to see a new piece, a new reflection, a new thing that I haven't seen before. It's just what would George Bailey say? It's a wonderful life. What a wonderful set of stuff.
it really is. And you talk about bringing guests on, we get to pull back the veil a little bit and we get to let them share their good, show their good, share their light, and like allowing people to do that away from sometimes what is the mundanity that is life. And they get to talk about and share things that give them a spark. It's, for me, it's special. Like, even if half those episodes I probably say like 7 words total.
Well, it is interesting because there are so many different people we get, like, and we have others that we're lining up, and we're going to be bringing to you guys as the year wraps up and into 2022. Zach, this is like I said, I started out, Zach, how are we gonna do this week? And Zach's like, no, trust me, this will be great, and it is. He's always pushing through that. We are seeking the great good place, and that's why we seek the good, be the good, and spread the good. Zach, how's that?
That's just about right. Like, I can't say anything else on that. I just want to, Rafe mentioned it. I mentioned it. We're pursuing the adventure of life. We're having fun. We're seeking the good that's within all of us. It does reside in all of us. And to do that, we kind of sometimes have to impact people in positive ways to allow them to see that light in them, to see that good in them. And we will continue to do that.
And you don't need the internet to do that. Do that at home first.
With a hand around someone's shoulder, you can text your friend and call them up and say, hey, we're getting ice cream tonight. And if they're like, what? And you're like, cool, I'm already in front of your door. I got some ice cream. So sometimes you got to make your own luck in those type of situations. But this has been wonderful to talk about with you tonight, Rafe. So I want to, again, thank all of our listeners for listening. I want to remind you to go seek the good, be the good, and spread the good. Enjoy the adventure of life. If you're interested in a more thorough summary of The Great Good Place, it can be found on episode 76 of the Young Heretics podcast.